So welcome everybody to 52 Living Ideas. Today is Poetry Mondays. Today our featured poet is Osip Mandelstam, and we have a special treat today. We have Philip here has agreed to show up just to pop in to read for us one or two of Osip's poetry in the original language in which they were created, which would be Russian. And so that's, I'm excited. Hopefully the rest of you are excited. And so we're going to, the way we do this, we do, there's 3 separate sections to Poetry Mondays. The first third, we're going to share poems. We do have the featured poet, so we encourage you to read any poem of his that has been a favorite of yours or that really spoke to you when you were looking him up. If you would rather read another poem that's also another poet, not a problem. All poems are welcome. You can also read your own personal poems. So anyone just go ahead and start queuing yourselves in the chat. You can go ahead and type an exclamation if you would like to read a poem. After we do the reading of the poems, the second section today will be our collaborative poetry writing sessions. And today we're trying something new. We're going to try call and response poetry. So we're going to have, the theme today is redemption. And we will have the 2 groups will do, one will do the call, one will do the response. We'll get into more details there when we get to the second section. And then in the third part of the evening, we all come back together. We will share our collaborative poetry together. And then we'll talk about the entire evening, what that it all evoked for us, how we found the collaborative process, what the poems made us think about, what the theme made us think about. So that's our evening in a nutshell. I am going to turn it over to Phil. Phil, were you going to throw anything up to the screen? Do I need to give you sharing capabilities?
Not really. I just wanted, so I wanted to read a couple of poems by Mandelstam. One is the one that you asked me, Maritza, Tristia. And then I wanted to, if I can find it real quick. And then there were a couple others that are just well known. I thought I'd read it to you, and then maybe you guys, if you wanted to read something, if you wanted me to read something else, I can read that as well. Sorry, I had it. Just a second. Here we go. Okay, so this is Tristia. Now, do you guys have the translated version so you can kind of look as I read? Because otherwise, probably.
I have it. You know what? I can go ahead and
maybe you can share the the screen while I read.
I will do that. So which one did you say you're going to do first? You're going to do the Tristia?
Yeah, Tristia.
Excellent. Mm-hmm. Yeah, my accent is terrible. Sorry. All right, let's see. So Tristia. It's funny because that's also the name of the book. Sometimes you don't necessarily get the poem itself. Okay. I have it here. It's a little small. I'm going to make it bigger and then I'll share the screen. Bear with me, folks. It'll be worth it, I promise. Ooh, that is too big. Okay, all right. I'm going to share it now. Go ahead.
Yep. Okay, Tristia. Я изучил науку расставания в простоволосых жалобах ночных. Жуют валы, и длится ожидание, последний час вигилий городских. И чту обряд той петушиной ночи, когда, подняв дорожный скорби груз, глядели вдаль заплаканные очи, и женский плач мешался с пеньем муз. Кто может знать при слове расставания, Какая нам разлука предстоит? Что нам сулит петушье восклицание, когда огонь в Акрополе горит? И на заре какой-то новой жизни, когда в сенях лениво вол жует. Зачем петух, глашатай новой жизни, на городской стене крылами бьет? И я люблю обыкновение пряжи, снует челнок, веретено жужжит. Смотри навстречу, словно пух лебяжий, уже босая делия летит. О нашей жизни скудная основа, куда как беден радости язык. Как было встарь, все повторится снова, и сладок нам лишь узнавание миг. Да будет так, прозрачная фигурка на чистом блюде глиняном лежит, как беличья распластанная шкурка, склоняясь над воском, девушка глядит. Не нам гадать о греческом ребе. Для женщин воск, что для мужчины медь. Нам только в битвах выпадает жребий, а им дано, гадая, умереть.
Thank you. That sounds so lyrical. It's more lyrical than I thought it would be. Thank you. What is the next one? I'll go ahead and cue that one.
Yeah, the one that I wanted to do is probably his most famous one, which was the cause of his imprisonment. He wrote this epigram to Stalin, and it's probably the most famous poem of his. It's quoted a lot, and it's.
What is the name? I'm sorry.
Actually, I have the. Let me see. I think I might have the. Let's see. So some of these are named after the first verse. So it's called "We live not feeling the land underneath." Let's see if I have it. Yes, I have it. Okay. Let me. There are lots of different translations. This is pretty good. So here, can I share my screen?
Yes, I made you co-host, so you should be able to now.
All right, perfect. All right, so this has the one of the translations. Again, there are many, and some of them are closer to the original, like verse translation. Some are closer to poetic meter. This one is pretty close as far as verse for verse. Мы живем под собою, не чуя страны. Наши речи за 10 шагов не слышны. А где хватит на пол разговорца, там припомнят кремлевского горца. Его толстые пальцы, как черви жирные, и слова, как пудовые гири верны. Тараканьи смеются глазища, и сияют его голенища. А вокруг него сброд тонкошеих вождей. Он играет услугами полулюдей. Кто свистит, кто мяучит, кто хнычет, а один лишь бабачит и тычет. Как подковку дарит за указом указ. Кому в пах, кому в лоб, кому в бровь, кому в глаз. Что не казнь у него, то малина и широкая грудь осетина. This is pretty sad poem, but it's still very, very, I guess, to the point and maybe poignant, you know, which is probably why he was arrested shortly after sharing that. Then he was sent to exile, where he eventually died.
Just real quick before you move on to the next poem, a couple folks have asked if we can have the English reading. Can you, if you want me to read it in English, or can you?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So this is a Stalin epigram, and then what I can do for folks, I can read the previous one as well in English.
Mm-hmm.
This one is, we live but cannot feel. Oops, oh no, it went away.
Oh, did you want me? Oh, I can keep sharing, sorry. I thought you had it, 1 second.
So I didn't bring that one up because you had it. Sorry, I just wrote down the name.
Yeah. No worries. 1 second.
I like that website, by the way, though, because it does give both. And even they manage sometimes to rhyme some of his poetry, which is fascinating. Stalin epigram: we live but cannot feel the earth, and if we speak, can't be heard. But wherever you hear a half conversation, they talk of that backwoods lout in the Kremlin. 10 fat fingers like greasy worms. Each of his words weighs 50 pounds. His mustache bristles in cockroach laughter, and his polished back boots glitter. His gang surrounds him, a spineless crew, half men who do what he tells them to. Some growl, some whimper, some yowl and hiss, but he alone rages and bangs his fists. Decree on decree, like horseshoes fly, at groin, forehead, eyebrow, eye. Each execution, sweet as a berry, to this broad-chested thug from Gori.
There's another translation that which is not as close, but it captures the meter better. I don't know if you want to read this one as well.
Sure, for contrast, yes.
Mhm.
We're unable to live, for this country's absurd. At 10 paces remove are our voices unheard, but opinion when muttered, half spoken. Kremlin's Highlanders, specters awoken. Podgy fingers he has that are meaty like worms, but his speech is deliberate, its measure confirms. Whiskers, cockroaches sputter with laughter. Polished jackboots are shiny, looked after, and a slender-necked rabble of stooges surrounds. On the dim-witted pawns, he unleashes his hounds. With a whistle, a mew, and a whimper, they respond to malevolent simper. Like a horseshoe, he forges decree on decree. Into groin and on forehead, he presses his knee. Retribution for him is a dawdle, ample-chested, his Caucasus waddle. That is fascinating. Because I see what you're saying, that it's not, they're saying the same sentiment. You can feel the same sentiment, but this one flows more. And
it captures the rhyme and the rhythm of it better.
But the neat thing is that you could hear the rhyme and the rhythm in the Russian version.
Mhm.
So this is nice to hear because it ties. But the other one, if you say the other one's a little closer, it's interesting.
Can I maybe finish with the last one that I wanted to read? It's a little bit more lyric, not as sorry, one second, not as morose, I guess. If I can find it real quick here. Yes, this one. So this is, I guess, also about farewells and waiting for someone that has departed. So I'll read this first in Russian, and maybe you can read this in English, Marissa. Золотистого меда струя из бутылки текла, так тягуче и долго, что молвить хозяйка успела. Здесь, в печальной Тавриде, куда нас судьба занесла, мы совсем не скучаем, и через плечо поглядел. Всюду баха со службы, как будто на свете одни сторожа и собаки. Идешь, никого не заметишь, как тяжелые бочки спокойные катятся дни. Далеко в шалаше голоса, не поймешь, не ответишь. После чая мы вышли в огромный коричневый сад, как ресницы на окнах опущены темные шторы. Мимо белых колонн мы пошли смотреть виноград, где воздушным стеклом обливаются сонные горы. Я сказал, виноград, как старинная битва живет, где курчавые всадники бьются в кудрявом порядке. В каменистой Тавриде наука Эллады, и вот золотых десятин благородные ржавые грядки. Ну а в комнате белой, как прялка, стоит тишина. Пахнет уксусом, краской и свежим вином из подвала. Помнишь, в греческом доме любимая всеми жена, не Елена, другая, как долго она вышивала. Золотое руно, где же ты, золотое руно? Всю дорогу шумели морские тяжелые волны, и, покинув корабль, натрудивший в морях полотно, Одиссей возвратился пространством и временем полным.
A river of golden honey from the bottle was pouring. A river of golden honey from the bottle was pouring, so long and so thick that the hostess had time to speak. To the sad Tarides, where life does not get boring, we journeyed through fortune and looked over the neck. There are Bacchus's services everywhere, as if in the whole world there are dogs and janitors only. Walk, and no one will notice. And like heavy barrels, the days, calm and temperate, rolled. From far in the mountains, a voice, you won't answer or know this. We enter a giant brown garden when done with the tea, with curtains like eyelids, the windows were sealed over. We walked past white columns to look at the grapes swinging free. With air like the glass strands, the enchanted mountains did shower. I said that the grape plant, like an ancient battlefield, lives, where curly-haired horsemen battle in of Greece. These rusty rows, 10 of each, noble and with gold sealed over. And in a white room, silence stands like a hidden wall. Smells are of vinegar, paint, and fresh wine from down under. Remember that in a Greek house, the wife was beloved by all. Not Helen, but, for as long as she wove, another. Golden Fleece, please tell me, where are you, Golden Fleece? All the way rose and roared on the journey the heavy sea waves, and leaving the ship, having labored the canvas at seas. Odysseus was coming back home, full of time, full of space.
That last line is my favorite. Full of time, full of space. You know, of course, the reference being to Odysseus coming home after however many years he was.
Right.
Journeying.
Awesome. That was so great. Thank you so much. Now, we want to ask a question. So go ahead, Shrikant.
Yes. Phil, can you stop sharing the screen?
Yep.
Question for you. So this is a great opportunity to ask you this question, because each language has a different feel to it. And especially in poetry, that feel comes through. And so the poetry of each language, it's in some ways it is unique. So what is interesting and unique about the Russian poetry? So when you look at Russian poetry as a whole, Russian language as a whole, and look at how it expresses things, what its distinguishing features are, what are they and how are they different from English?
Right. You know, it's funny because as I was reading Barfield, and of course he talks about languages at different stages, I was thinking about Russian language in that regard. So Barfield makes a note that older languages, they tend to ossify. And they ossify by way of rules that becomes more pronounced. And so word order becomes super important, like in English. So you can't just change order of words arbitrarily, it changes meaning. In languages that are younger and they are more dynamic, the rules are not ossified yet. And so there's a lot of flexibility. You can switch word order, you can emphasize, the meaning is fluid. You almost have to listen to how it's said in order to understand what's being said. So there's a lot more fluidity, and Russian languages, I guess, is younger in that sense, not necessarily historically, but in its evolution, it has not ossified yet. It is still very fluid. Its grammar is very fluid. It's more complicated, but it allows you to change word order pretty much arbitrarily. You can rearrange words. And so that of course, is good for poetry because it's easier to write poetry when you don't have to be kind of stuck in a certain algorithm, which is why I think in English, a lot of poetry is written now without rhyme, because I guess poets feel that they can express themselves better when they don't need to do the rhyme, or they basically rely on rhythm and meaning to compose. In Russia, the tradition has always been, if you can express yourself, you might as well do it in rhyme. And so a lot of poetry is rhythmic and it rhymes. Pushkin, of course, being the epitome of that. I mean, the guy wrote Eugene Onegin, which is like, this thick, right? And it's all beautiful, beautiful rhyme. So yeah, that is one difference or characteristic. The other one is, I think, there are a lot more vowels, not more, but they're more pronounced, the vowels, than the consonants. And so it lends itself to singing. And so it's more lyric, I would say. The language itself is just more lyric. And a lot of folk songs, they are very, they emphasize elongation of vowels. So if you've ever heard any Russian song, like even in like Red October or whatever, whatever the movie, The Hunt for Red October, they're very like elongated, right? As opposed to maybe like Irish or English songs that are more kind of rhyme.
Mhm.
I mean, they're more rhythmic. They're not going to carry like one syllable for 2 to 5 seconds. Whereas in Russia, it's the opposite. They'll carry a whole, one syllable they can carry for like, 5 or 10 seconds in a song, right? So that's a big difference. So the vowels play I would say a larger role. And in poetry, that makes a difference, I guess, too, where you can almost have the singing quality to it. It's very easy to start. And I'm not saying you would sing it, but it is easy, and it lends itself to opera and things like that, obviously.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Phil.
Awesome. Thank you. And I'm hoping the rest of you found this to be the treat that I did, because it's like when you're reading poetry that is translated, you almost can feel the areas where the translator kind of struggled with the translation. So even not understanding the language, it's just nice. Like I feel it's not necessary to understand the language to understand that what you're hearing is poetry. So thank you so much, Phil. I really love having the opportunity to hear a poem in its native language. Thank you. Oops, Phil, you're muted.
Yeah, I just said sure. Yeah, no problem. I'll probably linger and then probably leave like in 10-15 minutes. So.
All right, no worries. Thank you.
All
Well,
right.
folks, so I invite anyone else. Don't be afraid. It's okay. We don't need you to say it in Russian. But if you have read any of Osip Mandelstam's works, feel free to share with us here. Or if you have a poem of your own or another poem from another poet that speaks to you, please feel free. We welcome all poetry. We want to hear it all. I go ahead and invite you. But while you guys are gathering up your courage, I'm going to do 2 things. First, I'm going to read for you the first poem that Philip read. He read it in Russian. I will read it for you in English. And then I'll share with you one other poem that was one that I did like as well. So this is the first poem read today, called Tristia. And I say it all kinds of not as pretty as Philip did. Forgive me. I can throw it on the screen again for you guys. I have studied the science of departures in night's sorrows. When a woman's hair falls down, the oxen chew, there's a waiting pure in the last hours of vigil in the town. And that I reverence night's ritual cock crowing, when reddened eyes lift sorrow's load and choose to stare at distance, and a woman's crying is mingled with the singing of the muse. Who knows when the word departure is spoken, what kind of separation is at hand, or of what That cockcrow is a token when a fire on the Acropolis lights the ground. And why at the dawning of a new life, when the ox chews lazily in its stall, the cock, the herald of the new life, flaps his wings on the city wall. I like the monotony of spinning. The shuttle moves to and fro. The spindle hums. Look, barefoot Delia's running to meet you, like swans down on the road. How threadbare the language of joy's game. How meager the foundation of our life. Everything was and is repeated again. It's the flash of recognition brings delight. So be it, on a dish of clean earthenware, like a flattened squirrel's pelt, a shape, forms a small, transparent figure where a girl's face bends to gaze at the wax's fate. Not for us to prophesy, Erebus, brother of night, wax is for women, bronze is for men. Our fate is only given in fight. To die by divination is given to them. I would just like to say this one is one of my favorites of his that I have read. It's just lovely, and I think there's so much there to ponder. And I have one more I'm going to share with you guys. Go ahead and type exclamation mark in the chat if you would like to read a poem. Everybody's always shy the first time around. I will go ahead and read. So this last poem I will read for you before I let other folks chime in is Silentium. And this was another one that I liked. I'm going to pull it up here so I can throw it up on the screen for you. It's funny because it's actually, this one is very large letters. Okay, so this is Osip Mandelstam's Silentium. She has yet to be born. She is music and word, and she eternally bonds all life in this world. The sea breathes gently. The day glitters wildly. A bowl of dazed azure sways pale from foam lilac. May I too reach back to that ancient silence, like a note of crystal, pure from its source. Stay, Aphrodite, as foam. Return, word, to music. Heart, be shy of heart, fused with life's root. And that was just another one that I liked. Okay, first up I have JP. Go ahead, JP.
Sorry for the delay. I hope I got that all in there. I'd never found this poet before. I found him quite interesting. I was going through his poems again early, and I decided on this because of two translations. And I liked that because of what Shrikant and Philip were saying about translating language. So the first one is called, and it's the same poem twice, A Flame is in My Blood. A flame is in my blood, burning dry life to the bone. I do not sing of stone, now I sing of wood. It is light and coarse, made of a single spar, the oak's deep heart and the fisherman's oar. Drive them deep the piles, hammer them in tight around wooden paradise where everything is light. It has a different feeling because of this translation, but the next one, the flame annihilates. The flame annihilates my withered life. Now it isn't stone. I sing, but wood. It is light and rough. From a single piece come the heart of the oak and the fisherman's oars. Drive the pilings tighter, pound you hammers about the wooden paradise where things are so much easier. I just found trying to read a poem in two versions had a slightly different feeling like we did last week when two of us read the same poem. So following a
That's
previous
great.
idea.
Thank you so much, JP. That's great. Next up, I have Joe. Go ahead, Joe.
Am I going to be penalized for not choosing? Osip
Oh, come
Mandelstam?
on, Joe. This is week 29 or 30. You know better.
Maybe I'll actually just read one of the ones that I actually that did. But I'm going to read this. I will read this first one. It's called Second Sight. Sometimes you need the ocean light and colors you've never seen before, painted through an evening sky. Sometimes you need your God to be a simple invitation, not a telling word of wisdom. Sometimes you need only the first shyness that comes from being shown things far beyond your understanding, so that you can fly and become free by being still and by being still here. And then there are times you need to be brought to ground by touch and touch alone, to know those arms around you and to make your home in the world just by being wanted. To see those eyes looking back at you as eyes should see you at last, seeing you as you always wanted to be seen, seeing you as yourself had always wanted to see the world. That is it's titled Second Sight by David White. And the reason I thought about it is that I was just
By who? By Dave? I'm sorry, I didn't
David
catch
White.
the name. David White. I got it.
So it's kind of just this, obviously this idea of reciprocated love that is, that's beautiful, but it's not just love with another individual, it's love with nature as well. So the first line, sometimes you need the ocean light, and just thinking about it in those terms, I was recently just by the ocean, and I was kind of so this really kind of came and hit home for me. So I can, give me a minute I'll pick a Osip Mandelstam, unless there's somebody else.
Not a requirement, Joe. Thank you.
No,
Thank you,
I definitely, I'll choose one. There were plenty that I could have chosen.
Philip,
so
I'm not the tyrant he's trying to make me out to be. All poems are welcome, I promise.
I could choose. I could do Rome.
I'm sorry?
Rome.
Rome?
Yeah. So Rome is but nature's twin, which has reflected Rome. We see its civic might, the signs of its decorum. In the transparent air, the firmament's blue dome, the colonnades of groves, and in the meadows forum. So I just like that.
Thank you, Joe. And next up, I have Brian. Go ahead, Brian.
Okay. I'm going to give you one of mine. I first make an apology. I have a very bad cough at the moment, and I may break off into coughing. I'll try not to do that. This poem arose yesterday, actually, because a friend of mine in England sent me a poem bemoaning the seasonal changes. After having a very hot summer, they've now switched straight into autumn. So she wrote me a poem called The Season Turns, and I responded with this. I well remember that season to which I hear you say, in a land that I was born in, but is now distant to me and seems so far away. I write this with sticky hands, I cannot keep them dry. The signs of season here are different, not so sure. Spiders don't build such webs, they would bend the tree to the floor. And the coolness of the evening is now down to 84. But the season is clearly marked now. I'm waiting in my bed. Fiona is approaching, sings so slow. Shutters protect the ventanas, and it's a hell of a wind set to blow. Tropical rainstorms attack the palm trees, a sight when they bend so low. Birds and dogs, like the butterfly and the bee, must take their chance to move and not get caught twixt the wind and the sea. Some leaves are falling from giant exotic plants. Others, they are just forming. To survive, they must take their chance. Some fruits are ripe but others just in bud. All are now awaiting for the Atlantic's bruising glance. That's it.
Thank you, Brian. And I hope you feel better soon.
Thank you.
Right, next up I have JP, go ahead. Oh wait, I'm sorry. Wayne, I apologize. Wayne is up next. Welcome, Wayne. I'm going to move on to JP, and Wayne, if you come back and unmute, we'll let you hop on. Go ahead, JP.
So I wrote this poem a month ago called Way More Than One. And it's wordplay, which I like. When I say I am the only one in my way, I make myself what I am. I can make it. I am my obstacle. I am the only one in my way. I can make it. I am my guide. I am the only one in my way. I can make it. I am my path. I am the only one in my way. What I am, I can make it.
Thank you, JP. That was great. So I see Wayne lost audio, so let's go on to Joelle. Welcome, Joelle.
Hi, my poem is in French, but I will try to read it in English afterwards. So, okay. Toi, rose aux pétales blanches, joyeuse et pétillante, resplendissante, toi, rose aux tiges fragiles, perdant tes pétales l'une après l'autre, sans prévenir, fragile et dérobée de sens. Toi, rose au parfum irrésistible, douceur et spectateur, victime d'intempéries, bafouée et tiraillée. Toi qui attends avec impatience cette renaissance tant attendue. Puis enfin, une lueur d'espoir dans l'abysse te redonnant enfin ta beauté divine. So in English, it's you rose with white petals, cheerful and sparkling, brilliant. You rose with fragile stems, losing your petals one after the other, without warning. Fragile and stolen from meaning, you rose with irresistible perfumes, sweetness and spectator, victims of bad weather, scorned and torn. You who wait impatiently, this long-awaited I can't say that in English, renaissance, then finally a glimmer of hope into the abyss, finally giving you back your divine beauty.
That was lovely. Thank you so much for sharing, Joelle. Okay, so next up I have Wayne. Go ahead, Wayne.
Hi, audio's fixed. Thank you for your patience. The poem that I would like to read is called ABC by Robert Pinsky. Anybody can die, evidently. Few go happily, irradiating joy, knowledge, love. Many need oblivion, painkillers, quickest respite, sweet time unafflicted, various world, X equals your zenith.
Thank you, Wayne. All right, and would anyone else like to read their poem? I don't see any more hands. I am going to share with you guys a personal poem of mine, just very briefly before we move on. So this is in honor of call and response. I too wrote a poem, like Brian, in response to a question that somebody asked me. I guess it was on all of our minds because we had decided that this week would be a call and response poem. So I was chatting with someone, and we were talking about culture and identity. And his last words to me were, "Identity is intriguing. I don't really get it. A desire to belong to something perceived to be greater than oneself, I suppose." So my response to him came out in a poem. And it's actually, for those of you who are familiar with style, this is a terza rima rhyme scheme on 8 syllables. "Identity is intriguing. I don't really get it," he said. "Do you find the search fatiguing? Explosions going off in my head. Can I find the words to explain? The doubts, they expand, grow, spread. Cascading images cause strain. It's all longing, a hope, a dream, a shining light inside my brain. As elusive as it might seem, it is simply your foundation and links you to a group, a team. Grounding us all in creation, the ancestors' call, we accept. Character formed through a nation. Unspoken metaphor well kept, fed by the stories we are told, woven together by tears wept. The shared history makes us bold. You need an asterisk with race. Identity is mine to mold. Accept ethnicity with grace. Let the art, the history lead. The stories are my grounding base. Sometimes the longing makes me bleed. Why such desire to belong? Many branches stem from one seed. Identity is intriguing. Do you find the search fatiguing? I have one more. Let's go to Steve, and then we'll do our breakouts. Go ahead, Steve.
Well, someone did a song about a month ago, and this song's kind of been going around in my head for a while. So I thought, okay, let's give it a try. It's called Reuben and Charisse. It's by Robert Hunter. Charisse was brushing her long hair gently down. It was the afternoon of Carnival. As she brushed it gently down, Reuben was strumming his painted mandolin. It was inlaid with a pretty face in jade, played in the carnival parade. Charisse was dressing in a pirouette in white. When a fatal vision gripped her tight, Charisse, beware tonight. Reuben, Reuben, tell me true. I feel afraid and I don't know why I do. Is there another girl for you? If you could see my heart, you would know it's true. There's none, Charisse, except for you, except for you. I swear it on my very soul. If I lie, say I fall down cold. When Reuben played his painted mandolin, the breeze would pause to listen in before going on its way again. Masquerade began when nightfall finally woke. Like waves against the bandstand, dancers broke to the painted mandolin. Looking out to the crowd who was standing there, sweet Ruby Claire, as Reuben stared, she was dressed as pirouette in red, and her hair hung gently down. The crowd pressed round, Ruby stood as though alone. Reuben's song took on a different tone, and he played it just for her. The song he played was the Carnival Parade. Each note cut a thread of Charisse's fate. It cut through like a blade. Reuben was playing his painted mandolin when Ruby froze and turned to stone, for the strings played all alone. The voice of Charisse from the face of the mandolin, singing, Reuben, Reuben, tell me true, for I have no one but you. If you could see my heart, you would know it's true. There's none, Charisse, except for you, except for you. I'd swear it on my very soul. If I lie, say I fall down cold. The truth of love an unsung song must tell. The course of love must follow blind without a look behind. Reuben walked the streets of New Orleans till dawn, Charisse so lightly in his arms, her hair fell gently down. Ahoy, old ferryman, riverboat of Karen ride. Though alive, take Reuben to the other side, for his sweet Charisse has died. It's a long, lonely walk from hell to the burying ground. Charisse may return, but don't look around, for your glance would cut her down. The truth of love an unsung song must tell. The course of love must follow blind, but Reuben looked behind. Reuben walked the streets of New Orleans till dawn with the ghost of Charisse in his empty arms, and her hair lay gently down.
Thank you, Steve. Steve, can you tell me one more time, please, the title and author of the poem?
Yeah, the title is Reuben and Charisse by Robert Hunter. He
Thank
is
you.
a lyricist for the Grateful Dead.
Ah, thanks. All right, folks, so now let's move on to our collaborative poetry. So what we're going to do today is we're going to break out into two groups. Shrikant, are you willing to play moderator today? Yes. All right, great. So we're going to have two moderators. We'll split you guys into two groups. What we're going to do, the theme today is redemption, and we'll do a call and response. So what we're going to ask is let's keep it to just 16 lines. Shrikant, correct me if you're not okay with this. My thinking was, then you'll just have 4. And it'll be, you can do 4 stanzas each, or you can split it out however you want. I don't want to be that restrictive. 16 lines-ish. You could even have it less. So what it's going to be ultimately is you want to have 4 call and response. So 4 little sections. It doesn't even have to be entirely 16 lines. So you guys play with it, whatever feels right to each group. And it's going to just be redemption. We're not going to put more wrapper around it. And then we'll just call in response to each other. I was toying with the idea of having, like an observer and a questioner, but I think today let's experiment with keeping it as loose as possible. What do you think, Shrikant? Does that sound good?
I think that sounds good. So I want to make sure I understand. So it's going to be 16 lines. We'll do 4, 4, 4, 4. I think that's a very simple structure. And what we could do is that we can actually get to that structure after doing some editing afterwards. So we have a little bit of flexibility to get things up, down, and call and response. You're saying 2-2, right? There's a call and response built in.
So actually, no. So what I was thinking, and that would be fun too. So what I was thinking, and maybe we do need the clarifier, I was thinking of your group being a call, I being the response. So what I had initially thought, and I wasn't sure if this was too restrictive, if I said your group is writing about seeking redemption, my group is writing about giving redemption. And then when we read the poems, because you're seeking, you'll read your stanza first.
Right.
I'll read mine second in response to yours.
Okay, I have a counter offer for you. Give more flexibility to both our groups. So how about we do seeking redemption and giving redemption, both of us. So what happens is there'll be like 2 lines of seeking and some giving. And so each of them will be call response, call response, call response, call response. So 4 units like that. And then what we'll do is that we'll read out each of our poems separately, and then we will mix them up. So okay. seek, give, like that. So
either way sounds lovely.
Yeah.
We'll try your way this week, my way next week.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
We're here every Monday. We're just gonna play.
Perfect.
Perfect. Awesome. So are you going to set up the breakout rooms?
Yes, let me go ahead.
Fantastic. I'll let you do that.
Yeah.
Exciting.
Just give me a minute.
And guys, it's going to be 20 minutes of creating lines at 10 minutes, or do you think we need 15? Because it's a little more.
No, I think that's good. So 20.
10? Okay.
20 minutes.
20 minutes to make the lines, 10 minutes to finesse the lines, and then we'll come back together and watch the magic of call and response.
All right, give me just a second here. Okay, I have to put you in. So I'm going to put you in 2. Okay, you need to jump into 2.
Will do.
Give me a second here. Hold on here. 1. Okay, I think we are all set. So I will take room 1, you take room 2.
Perfect.
All right, folks, starting the breakout rooms now.
Well, hello there. You are muted, Shrikant.
All right, so this is so much fun. This was so much fun. And everybody did so well. We had everybody in my group. So how did it go in your group?
I think it went well. I think we ultimately we liked our poem. It got everybody's thumbs up. So we did a little bit of rhyming.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so do you want to go first, or do you want us to go first?
We're gonna both go first. We're going to we'll read one, you'll read one.
No. What I was thinking is that let's read, just each of us read our poems separately, and then we will do the mix.
Oh, okay. All right. Let me, yes, no worries. I can go ahead and do that. I'm going to throw it into the chat. Humble and unmasked, I beseech you, the one who seeks never finds, listening now to the voices from nature, seeking a guide from less turbulent minds. Forgiveness and acceptance of others, keeping calm, awaiting the reply. Is it possible to find the path again? Fervent wishes for absolution in the sky. First, one must open one's eyes in order to see the light. Careful, such time spent in darkness shall make it feel so bright. Return to the radiant source within the impossibility of time. One must be seeking peace and truth. Transcend the bias making you blind. Okay. Shrikant, you're muted.
Okay.
And can you throw that in the chat so that when you do the call and response, if anyone else needs to grab it to read it?
Sure. Let me go ahead and do that.
Oh, and I'll grab it. So, I didn't get the one from last week from you.
Oh, I emailed it to you.
I'll check. Thank you.
Let me see, where is, okay, there it is. The whole thing is there. All right. So JP, if you could do the seek, and Mushki, if you could do the give.
Okay. Mushki, are we ready?
Yes.
Well, I didn't do it. I didn't do it at all. I didn't do it at all well.
You did enough. You are enough. What more can be expected of a human hell?
I want to be in flow, an unquestionable no, divine presentation, authentic sensation.
Sufficient the answer, proficient the dancer, music that lingers like perfume on fingers.
I recognize my fault, a fault unpardonable, my soul unable to hide in an unfathomable vault.
I have hit rock bottom, but safe. From here I trot forward like a colt.
I have let slip from my fingers the glorious potential life, asleep, awakened, in deep shaken by a clarion call strife.
I solve the puzzle, but puzzle with the solution. Absolutely, absolution is resolutely resolution.
Wonderful. All right. Okay, Maritza, so how do we do it now?
Didn't actually do the same format. Let's see.
So the format, I want to understand your format.
We have 2 stanzas of 4 lines each for seeking, and we have 2 stanzas of 4 lines each for giving.
Got it. Got it. Okay, so let's see here. What's the best way to do it? So
I mean, we could just read 2 and stop there, but ours rhymes. So each other line, our second and fourth lines are the rhyming ones. So I didn't understand you apparently when I thought I did, because you said alternating, and I was thinking, so each stanza,
sure.
you were thinking within a stanza.
You got like two seeking and 2 giving, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, very good. So then what we will have to do is we'll have to be a little bit flexible here. So we've got, all right, so how do we, what if we did like seek 1 and seek 2 on our side? And so that will correspond to 4 lines of yours.
Okay.
And then we will go ahead and read the give from your side. And then we will do the vice versa.
Sounds good. Let's see. Anybody from my group want to read either the seek or give? I don't need to be the one reading. I'll let you guys. Everybody's shy. All right. Oh, Joe, go ahead. Joe, you're muted. You're still muted.
Is it in Word?
There you go. Did you want to
Let me grab it. Let me grab it.
Let me make it for you in Word. I know you said you wanted to
Yeah.
to do that. Give me just a minute here, okay?
Otherwise I can't see it.
Right. Let me I have to save it. Apparently I can't copy it to you until I okay. Sorry, I'm going through the process of saving them. It's not as fast as you would think. Oh, great. I have to actually close mine before I can send it to you. So it didn't let me send it, sorry, because it said I was I had it open. So take 2.
Did it come through?
Yeah, now it did. Do you see it?
Yeah.
And I sent it as a docs.
See if it opens.
Crossing fingers.
Yes, it's working.
Sweet. And so Shrikant, for our side, we'll do Joe, you'll do the seeking.
Okay.
And so those would be our first 2.
Sure.
And then I'll do the well, just for ours, Shrikant. And then I'll do the giving for ours. And then Shrikant, you and somebody else.
JP, would you do the response? So once Joe does their seeking, can you do our give 1 and give 2 as the response, JP?
So we're doing 4 lines and 4 lines, not 2 lines, 2 lines.
Right, 4 lines and 4 lines.
So will I do 4 and
yes,
then
you'll
do the first 4, just the first 4.
Just the first 4. Then JP will go and he will do the 4 lines from our side, give 1 and give 2.
Okay.
And then you'll do the next 4.
Then what we'll do is that then maybe I will do the seek 1 and seek 2 from our side, and then Maritza will do the 4 give lines from your side.
Okay.
Okay, go for it, Joe.
Humbled and unmasked, I beseech you, the one who seeks never finds, listening now to the voices from nature, seeking a guide from less turbulent minds.
You did enough. You are enough. What more can be expected of a human hell? Sufficient the answer, proficient the dancer. Music that lingers like perfume on fingers.
Well, I didn't do it. I didn't do it at all. I didn't do it at all well. I want to be in flow, an unquestionable no, divine presentation, authentic sensation.
First, one must open one's eyes in order to see the light. Careful, such time spent in darkness shall make it feel so bright.
Joe, if you could go for the second.
Forgiveness and acceptance of others, keeping calm, awaiting the reply. Is it possible to find the path again? Fervent wishes for absolution in the sky.
JP, give 3 and 4.
I have hit rock bottom, but safe. From here, I track forward like a colt. I solve the puzzle, but puzzle with a solution. Absolutely, absolution is resolutely resolution.
I recognize my fault, a fault unpardonable, my soul unable to hide in an unfathomable vault. I have let slip from my fingers the glorious potential life, asleep, awakened, in deep shaken by a clarion call strife.
Return to the radiant source within the impossibility of time. One must be seeking peace and truth. Transcend the bias making you blind.
Wonderful.
Great, wonderful, awesome, guys. Great job. I love it. The one thing I will say, as we practice with these, we should try to only speak when reading. When you're in the reading mode, there should be no extraneous anything else. If we give the people the cues beforehand,
Yes,
because then
absolutely.
in the recording, you have the whole poem uninterrupted. That was awesome. Oh, this is great. I liked it. What do you think, Shrikant?
Oh, I like this a lot. And I think, today JP was on fire, because he's able to put together not just rhymes, but he's able to put together these juxtaposition of phrases that really, really work together. So he's able to make like 2 words work, like pair of words against pair of words, and he rhymes it all. So it was just wonderful. And then Joel and Marco and Mushki kept adding more things. So just beautiful.
Awesome. Yeah, with our group, what was great was it was a lot of helper. Very few of our lines purely belong to one person today. So it was really nice. You would have like somebody would throw up, hey, let's put this line up as the rhyming pair to go to this other one. And then somebody would fill in the first part and somebody else would jump in and go, oh no, change this word for that one. So it was it was nice. It was, we struggled a little bit with some of the rhyming, but we knew we wanted to do the rhyming. So we kind of, we played with it. And what I like is this poem more than just about every other I've made here with others. It's near impossible to say which line belongs to whom, which I like.
The other thing I noticed about today's poem was having that 16-line structure was very helpful. I thought it worked really well because what happened, I just put down like seek, call. And what people could do is that they could either add a call or they could add a new seek. So they could fill things out. Because
probably could have benefited from having done that. We did keep getting confused. We're like, wait, guys, no. Right now we're seeking. And then, you would get somebody saying, be careful. And we're like, wait, no. You can't be careful. You're asking for help. And then so we'd move it to the bottom line. Would anyone else like to jump in here on the experience, how this was for them? What are their thoughts? Go ahead and type exclamation in the chat. I'd love to hear your thoughts. You could also chime in on any other aspect, aspect of poems in translation. Go right ahead and jump in. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
I enjoyed well, can I just jump in, or since I didn't type exclamation point?
It's okay, Joe.
No, I mean, I enjoyed this, writing this poem, and I do agree with Shrikant, and I do like the structure. I tend not to like structure when I'm writing, especially something as rigid as 16 lines, because sometimes it's just like, just put as much down on paper and then kind of sort it out. But in this particular instance, I think it kept us on track. And since there's so many different people contributing, that it keeps the flow going a little bit more. I think the issue, I thought, I also liked the topic itself. The idea of redemption is a fascinating, something that's a fascinating discussion in and of itself, too. The importance of it, and both theologically and just in our daily lives.
Thank you, Joe. I will say I noticed across both poems, there are some themes. I'd like to hear Steve's thoughts, and then we'll get back to that.
Yeah, I like the challenge every week. There's an evolution going on, and it seems like it gets more and more challenging. And I like to see that growth in myself and in the participants in the group. So that's wonderful. And I look forward to the next stage of evolution as to, what's coming next.
I could not have stated that better myself. Thank you, Steve. I agree. Well, we are at week 30, guys. Can you believe it? Week 30? You guys have been hanging out with Shrikant and I for half a year, writing poems. How awesome is that? I want to take us back to this idea of the actual theme of redemption, because in the call and response, it's so, I found it interesting that the I only showed up in the seeking. There was no I, which makes sense, right? But it's kind of like a universal, as it were. The idea of when you tune the mind to the idea of seeking redemption, we're inner. When we tune the mind to give redemption, we don't necessarily think of ourselves giving redemption. We think of others giving us redemption. And I guess that maybe that's a small thing, but I thought that was interesting. And both groups also put the idea of, that transcendence, looking for something bigger than ourselves, which I think that was neat. And it was very appropriate to the featured poet today, because I don't know if any of you had a moment to learn a little bit about Osip Mandelstam's history. He lived in exile. He was persecuted. He very much was rebelling against, this massive regime. And he actually refused to seek redemption. But in his poems, he seeks it from the land because of his exile, which is just beautiful to me. But anyone else? Shrikant, what are your thoughts on the topic, the process?
So it's a huge topic. I think it's kind of, I thought of Owen Barfield and the silver trumpet, because what happens is, it's very easy to go down. And you don't even notice that you're going down most of the times, because it's just drifting. And then you have this clarion call, you have this trumpet, which is saying, hey, it's possible to do that. I like the various themes that came. I mean, of course, I've spent more time on the poem that our group worked on. So I'll just talk about that one. So if you look at the structure of it, right? I really like the start. Well, I didn't do it at all. I didn't do it at all well. So this is like saying, no, there is nothing to be redeeming about. And that's like the worst thing to start, of kind of denying anything wrong that you've done. So this is a beautiful way of starting that theme. Let's look at the second seek, right? I want to be in a flow and unquestionable no, divine presentation, authentic sensation. So that is actually kind of saying that, look, it's like an aspiration, you're saying, this is what I want to be. Then you have, again, kind of, I recognize my fault, a fault unpardonable. My soul is unable to hide in an unfathomable vault. So now this is like actually going from a step that seek one, which is saying, no, there is nothing to be talked about. And then you're saying, oh, okay, this is really, I'm in a really bad state. The next one even takes it further. I have let slip from my fingers the glorious potential life, asleep, awakened, in deep shaken by the clarion call strife. So it is showing that, okay, you're saying, wait a minute, I wasted my life. And that's like a very big admission. So much different from the first seek one, kind of progressively saying that, okay, now actually it is coming to the start of where you can begin the redemption. And here you have that little trumpet calling. It's saying, okay, this is where it is going to come up from. And then if you look at the gives, you've got, firstly, you're saying you did enough, you're enough, what more can be expected? So you're saying you don't really need redemption here. It's all fine. Nothing really needs to be done. Okay, so that's a very good way of addressing the first seek. Then you've got sufficient the answer, proficient the dancer, music that lingers like a perfume on fingers. So it is saying, this is a very good, you want a state like that. I have hit rock bottom, but safe. From here, I trot forward like a colt. So this is like the bouncing movement, but saying, okay, you've given all of this up. You've accepted all of this. Now it's the time to grow. I solved the puzzle with the solution, but puzzle with the solution. And I really like the way it ends. Absolutely, absolution is resolutely resolution. So I just the whole structure of the process of facing that there is something wrong, realizing that something wrong, and then you are bouncing up from it. And then there is this full hope. So that's what I liked about the trajectory of redemption as shown in our poem.
I really liked when we did the crossover between the two poems, that it still worked. Like the things that you're speaking of, they weren't diminished at all by interposing the other poem. It was really it just worked. So because you're looking at the first four of your seek one and seek two, I'm sorry, your give one and your give two. Those are really great response to somebody saying, I'm humble and I'm unmasked and I beseech you. And then you're responding to me, you did enough. You are enough. So I feel like that works really well. And then it's like, the one who seeks never finds. And you're like, well, what more can be expected of a human hell? Like it's quite fascinating to me how it does work. It's one of the it's part of the magic of the that focus and theme. I really like it. It works. And I have to admit, I'm a little bit in love with our ending as well. Like I really, really like that line, transcend the bias, making you blind. I think that in tandem with your line, absolutely, absolution is resolutely resolution. Transcend the bias, making you blind. Isn't that like the best lines for giving somebody redemption?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes, beautiful, beautiful.
I like it. So we're coming here to the end of our evening. Shrikant,
Yes.
can we
I
tell
want to
folks
tell
about
you.
what's coming?
Yes, yes, yes. There's so many exciting things. I can't believe it. Number one, we are beginning our journey on Goethe's Faust. Okay, Faust is one of the most incredible works, and Phil is going to be leading that, and he is going to do a spectacular job. And I encourage anybody who wants to be a panelist. I've not talked to Phil about it, but I think that format works very well where people become panelists. So basically anybody who has read things gets to talk for like 3-4 minutes about what they got from it. And so please engage with that. I'm going to tell you about really a very different kind of meetup that we are about to start, starting October 13th. I want to give you enough warning about it, and I want to tell you enough about it. So it is the hardest work, okay? So first I want to tell you it's very, very tough, okay? And only if you really, really want to do it, because it's going to be a lot of work. So what is this about? I read this book called Clear and Simple as the Truth. I forget the name of the authors. Joe, if you could put that in the chat, as well as the link to the meetup on October 13th, which is the first meetup on this. What the book is that it's a book on style. Now I have read many books on style, but this is at least 10 times better than anything else I have read. Because what it does is that it actually identifies different styles and shows you where those styles are appropriate. These are styles of writing as well as speaking. But though he doesn't explicitly say it, they are styles of thinking as well. So this allows you to see what possible styles of writing, speaking, and thinking that you can have. Let's take the middle term, speaking, from which you can go to writing or thinking very easily. So let's talk about speaking. He says that all styles depend on 4 crucial criteria, and they have very different positions on each of them. First, let me list a bunch of styles. There is the plain style, which holds that anybody, even a child, can speak and write well about anything. Second is a practical style, which is focused, whose purpose is for one person who knows how to do something to explain to another person how to do that. And that's all you're trying to do. The third is kind of subjective style or introspective, or let's take this introspective style, where you're trying to tell people what's going on in your head. The fourth is a romantic style, which holds that it's only few people can grasp deep truths, which are very difficult to grasp, and you grasp them through these insights. And when you have these insights, you better capture them in whatever form you can for posterity, and most people will not grasp it. So these are some of the styles. The style that he talks about, that he's advocating, is called the classic style, which was developed during the 17th century in France. People like Pascal, Descartes, I think it's called Rochefort, are some examples from France. The best example in America is Mark Twain, especially when he's writing nonfiction like his Life on Mississippi. Declaration of Independence by Thomas Jefferson is an example of that. So what is this style like? So firstly, I want to show you these 4 criteria. The first criteria is truth. So these different styles have a different view of truths. The classic style holds that there is truth and that you can grasp it and you can speak about it, you can write about it, you can think about it, and that you should do that. That's what that style holds. Now, of course, subjective style holds that there is no truth. Romantic style holds that there is truth, but it is almost impossible to grasp only few people can grasp it sometimes through it, divine, almost inspiration. The practical style really doesn't talk about truth as such. It is focused on just getting a particular thing done. The plain style is like a subset of the classic style. It actually is true in certain kind of things, but at that level, at the children level, you can't really grasp all the complexity of the world. So in that sense, the classic style rests on plain style, but takes it so that it can handle any complexity of thought. So that's on truth. The second is the idea of presentation. The classic style holds that the presentation should be such that you should be able to, the reader or the listener should be able to see the truth through the presentation. So the focus is not on the presentation. If attention gets focused on the presentation, then you're not focused on the truth. So it's almost like a transparent kind of a style that lets you focus on it. Romantic style, for example, is all focused on that. Like introspective style is concerned only about what is going on in your head, not what you're saying about the truth. So presentation, there is difference. But the most important thing is what they call a scene of a style. You know, what is the context in which this communication is taking place? So for example, an oratorial style assumes that you're talking to a large number of people. A style which is like the practical style, you're talking to people who are trying to do certain things. The classic scene, the context of the classic style is that of one-on-one communication. So you're addressing an individual mind, not of a particular person, but of anybody. And the purpose is to communicate about reality to that person in as simple, clear, and direct way as you possibly can, with its fullest power. So that's what it is. Now, all of this is just part 1 and part 2 of the book. The greatness of the book comes in the part 3, which consists of a set of exercises. And the author says, you know, this style is actually very easy to master. If you want to have that style, you can. And these are the steps through which you get it. And they identify 3 steps. 1 consists of mastering what is called the classic scene, which is the foundation of this style, classic style. That is 2 people sitting face to face, talking about something that they can see together. And they are talking about that. And it is grounded in that. Second level is that then you blend in all the inferences you can make about it, all the abstractions you can apply to it, the cultural context of it, you blend it in. And I will explain what blending it in means, that you use this base of physical perception, of being able to perceive things, so that you can use that to understand it. I'm going to give you an example from Mark Twain about this. And the third part they call compression, and that is to use physical metaphors in order to capture the most abstract things. Rhythms and patterns seen in physical world in order to make the abstractions accessible. So it's a very powerful and simple style. So let me give you an example. I don't have the text itself, so I'm going to paraphrase it. This is from The Life on the Mississippi by Mark Twain. Mark Twain says, we boys lived in this small town by the Mississippi. Almost nothing happened in this town ever, except when a circus came by. And when the circus came by, all the boys wanted to be trapeze artists for a while, and then it passed. Then a minstrel show would come by and all the boys wanted to be in the band. And then that would pass. And then a steamship came by. And everybody wanted to be on the steamship, but the excitement of going up and down the Mississippi, exploring town after town after town, would make that excitement remain with you. And when the next steamship came by, that excitement would grow further until a point where a boy would somehow manage to jump on this ship and become a part of it. Now, if you see what he's doing, is that firstly, he's talking about this little town in Mississippi over 100 years ago. I don't know that town, but the way he describes it, it kind of stands in front of my eyes because I have percepts to which it connects. So here is the problem of speaking and writing. Our brains are these large networks, humongously complex networks. So is reality. When you're talking to another person, they have this giant network, which is different from yours. And you're communicating with them with a line, which is what language is. It's a series of words. How do you take this network and push it through the line so that that other network gets it? That's the problem that this classic style is designed to solve. And the solution that they have is that you root it in percepts first, and then look at what Mark Twain does. He starts with the percepts, then slowly uses the fact that you have this excitement about something and then it dies down, excitement about something and dies down. So there is a pattern in physical world, and shows that there are some kind of patterns which are steady, which actually build on themselves. And through that, he brings in ideas like curiosity about the world, a sense of adventure. So much higher level ideas that just naturally come from the description of the physical world. By the way, poetry just does just this. Okay, great poetry does just this. There is the perceptual base, and it is being used to blend in much higher level concepts into the perceptual base. So this book is about learning how to do it. So what we are going to do is we're going to have workshops, okay, starting October 13th. I encourage you to read the book yourself as much as you want and decide whether you want this classical style, whether you want to think, speak, and write in this classical style. And if you do, you can just come and attend. I was reading this, and I'd finished only finished reading 5 exercises, and I was getting together with a friend. And I did not tell him all of this, what this style is or anything. I said, look, I want to do some exercises. How about doing them together? And we spent about a couple of hours doing these exercises. And his reaction was, I did not know that I could be this articulate in describing things. And I'm really good at describing physical things. I can describe kind of externals of people, but when it comes to interactions between people, I'm not particularly good. So it will help you map out what you are able to do, what you're not able to do, and stretch your ability to do that. And we will learn from each other as we see each other talking about the same thing. So that's what it is going to be about. So I invite you to join. And it's going to be a tremendous, it's a lot of work. Okay, it's a lot of work. So look at it. See if you're philosophically you agree with it, because most moderns do not agree with this. Most modern times are subjectivist. It is like very fragmented. They will say, what is truth? They will, there's going to be all kinds of stuff. So if you think that this is something worthwhile, join us. So you can get the book. You can get the book and start reading it. The meetup, I've set it up on starting October 13th. And so that's what I had. If anybody has any comments or questions, happy.
Shrikant, I want to just throw on for you guys. It's a workshop that will not be recorded. I know for some people it's a concern.
No, absolutely. So that's a very important thing. We're not going to record it simply because we want people to be free to try out many things, fail, and learn. And so that's what it is. So I hope some of you would like to join. And I'm certainly finding every opportunity of trying to practice this. So
I'm excited. Shrikant, I'm going to jump in here for just a quick second and say that, it's interesting. You're talking about percepts. That is the manner in which that's a lot of the tenets of objectivism. That's what they invite you to start your base, set up your percepts. And I had a friend for years, and we're no longer friendly, but every time we spoke and we would go down and philosophize for hours, we always set up the conversation before we began. And so what you were just talking about made me think of that. And it really was some of the best conversation I had was like that, where we were setting up with percepts, making sure that we were on the same page, as it were. So I am very, very excited and interested in seeing these workshops. Thank you. Would anyone else like to comment on this? While you guys go ahead and type exclamation in the chat, I will give you real quick and the featured poet for next week and our theme. We're going to look at, so in the United States, this is actually Hispanic Heritage Month, so I'm cheating a little bit. Let's go with Juan Ramon Jimenez. He's a very well-known Spanish poet. So it'll be Juan Ramon Jimenez, and he has a lot of works. And what I'd like to do for our theme next week is I'd like to do a call and response with seasons. And what I'm thinking is we'll have one group will do summer, another group will do fall, and we'll do call and response that way. Summer speaking to fall, fall speaking to summer. What do you think, Shrikant?
I like it very much.
Exciting. All right, so that'll be next week. Oh, Joe, go ahead. I see your hand, well, your exclamation mark.
No, I'm just, I am eager to get started on this project. I just started looking at the book a little bit today. And the thing that I really, the part that's really kind of resonating with me, and you mentioned this last night, Shrikant, is this idea how our brains are networks, and having a process to extract that information and be able to communicate it very clearly is exciting. It's going to be, but I also can tell that that's a lot of work. That is very clear, but it'll be worth it.
It's going to be so much trouble, Joe, because I'm reading a book by Steven Pinker, or I'm trying to read a book.
Which one?
Steven Pinker, which is based on this itself. It's called Sense of Style, where he's trying to show why this style works in the brain. Okay, but the problem is that I have gotten used to the style of this book so much that I cannot stand listening to Pinker talk. Because
wow,
what is this? He's saying things that I really want to hear, but I am now used to the style, because the style is so luminous. Like each sentence will just be, you would have like, wow. And see, the only reaction that I have to this, the best example I have this is like Gospel of John, where you have got like the chapter 4, Samaritan woman. It's a very simple scene. A person tired in a foreign land, sitting by the well. A woman comes, he asks for the water, they talk, then the woman goes away, then his companions come, offer him food. He says, no, I don't need food. And they talk about, all of it is just grounded on physical things. And then the most deepest ideas are rooted in those things. What is water? What is thirst?
Right.
And what is a well, and what is a fountain at the core of your heart? What is bread? What is food? And what is a harvest? And when is harvest ripe? And just so much deep context is brought in using that physical description as a base. So, once you get used to style like that, it's like really, and most importantly, it places a demand on you. You're saying, why am I speaking like this? This is what human speech can be. Let me see how I can do that. So that is what is going to be the result. So I am determined to actually start to have the classic style, because to give you an example, I'm considered to be a good writer. The finished product of my writing is very good, but the first drafts are not very good. There are all the thoughts are there, but they're not in the right order. I have to do a lot of work with them, repeated editing to produce it. What this is showing me is that a lot of the structure, if you can get it into your speech itself, then when you get the first draft on the paper, it's going to be so much better. That it's like the cake, where the draft is, the structure of it is already baked in, and you just pat it a little bit in order to fix it, instead of rearranging the whole thing to make it work. So
that's the most exciting part that you that you mentioned thus far, is because it's true, that part about it. If you can speak like you write, like that clearly, if I could just not even type, just speak.
Yes.
And write.
I have friends who can do that. I have friends.
I would like to meet them, because I'll tell you, there's very few people that I've ever met that can pull that off. I knew
other friends who can do that at that level, and at a very, very high level, just effortlessly. Every time they open their mouth, they can just talk like they write. I can write better than them, but they can talk better than me. I can take whatever they talk, and when I write that up, or when I edit that, that's going to be so much, because I'm starting with that. So what I want is, I want me to be able to speak like that. And it's not that difficult. What they're talking about is a very straightforward, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps. You first just describe things that you're seeing to a person who's right there in front of you. Then you talk to them, imagine that they're on the phone. Then you put in some inferences about what you're saying, but meld it into that. So you can step by step build up the level of abstraction while keeping the concreteness of it. Because otherwise, like for example, if Mark Twain was to say, the boys of the village really loved the sense of adventure that the steamboat suggested. Like if you just throw in words like adventure or curiosity, those are very high level words. And those are not grounded. But if you ground them, it's just very, very powerful. Also, it goes to the heart of what metaphors are. So entire work of Julian Jaynes, entire work of Owen Barfield. And this is actually delivering the promise of Owen Barfield of saying that language can and should produce a change of consciousness. So each sentence has the power to do it. most people don't do that. Mushki.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say I'm very excited for this course. And the way I think of it is when you communicate, it's good to assume that everyone has ADHD, like extreme ADHD, as if. And so, like, for example, when I speak, I try to filter in my head words that are extra because I know that people have short attention spans. And so I'm hoping that this style will help me to do that, to just get to the key points when I'm speaking.
It's very interesting. Actually, this style is very different. This style is such that on one hand, a person with limited attention span will get something from it. You can read Mark Twain with very little attention and you will get something from it. But if a person is paying a little bit more attention, they can get more out of it. This style presumes an equality between the writer and the reader. It holds that the writer writes assuming that the reader can see for themselves and understand for themselves what they are pointing to. So you're trying to just simply point to things and you are helping the reader get it. So these words, so for example, Declaration of Independence is a classic example of it. You know, if you read the Declaration of Independence, it starts with something, you know, say just listing the list of grievances against the king. And then slowly it builds off that to heights which are just incredible. So it's a very powerful, flexible means, and people can get things at any levels. And this is true of, like, for example, you know, if you look at Bhagavad Gita, they are read as stories, you know, like Mahabharata is read as stories. And they carry weight. Anybody who knows philosophy, they can think a little bit more. The same story will get them at another level, and then another level. And all these levels are built in and accessible at the same time through the writing. So it is on one hand very simple, and one hand extremely complex, all of it put together like that. So that is what the style is about.
And you said poetry is like that too, right? Poetry is basically similar.
Yes, but yeah, absolutely. Poetry is very similar because if you look at the great poetry, right, what it does is that it uses metaphors, fresh metaphors that make you think of things that you have not thought of. And it does that with very small number of words. This is like writing poetry all the time, except it makes your prose poetry. That's what it does. GP.
The idea of reducing down, the deconstruction of having something and just finding the words that meet. I speak enough of the Beatles, I hope, and don't anybody ever get tired of me speaking of the Beatles. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to thank you on behalf of the group, myself, and I hope to pass the audition. George Harrison was admired by other guitarists, but often was criticized because he didn't do much with chords in his playing until years later when they understood what George Harrison did, because they would hear the tapes of George Harrison playing a lot of chords and riffs, but it was too much. And he would go back and take out a note here or there, or try to play 2 strings out of a harmonic chord instead of all 3. And he reduced it down until he'd only have the right notes that would go with the words, that would go with the rhythm that John was doing, that would go with the beat that Ringo was providing. And Ringo would do the same thing. If the beat was too much, he would try to find the beat that was hitting with the words, that was going with George Harrison's lead. And then there's Paul McCartney doing the same thing on the bass. They found a way as 4 people to put the music and the words together. And even Ringo Starr never got much acclamation for what he did for the Beatles. But John and Paul would say, oh yeah, during that song, that phrase, that was Ringo's Hard Day's Night. People didn't know for a long time. That was Ringo's phrase that John Lennon took and made a whole song out of and wrote in one night. And that's something that the Beatles would do, especially with George Harrison. If you listen to what he did in guitar and think, oh, well, Eric Clapton did much better when he did While My Guitar Gently Weeps. But George Harrison didn't want the simple playing that he had in that song. He wanted Eric Clapton's more expansive chord playing because the weeping needed to sound that way. And George Harrison would have sounded more like drops of rain instead of that slow storm building and flushing through. So the whole idea of breaking down to finding just the right notes, just the right words, I think it makes music too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's exactly, you just put it very beautifully, because what you're doing is that you're trying to produce something which is simple, but it is simplicity which is achieved through a lot of work. Actually, it is bringing together with one thing. It is like setting off an explosion with just this one thing, with a very small, simple line that is memorable in so many ways. In terms of network, you're trying to put a line, which is a short line, that goes the network of the other person who is hearing, go like that. Okay, light up. That's what you're doing. And you really need to find out what each of these things are. And that's what the work is about. So, all right. So I hope, Maritza, what do you think? You want to do this?
I'm already signed up.
Okay. All right.
Signed up and the book is in my car. I'm there.
Wonderful, wonderful. All right, folks. Shorter later, yes, absolutely, absolutely. Wonderful. All right, thank you, folks.
Yeah, thanks, guys. We'll see you next Monday. Take care. Again, it's Juan Ramon going to do call and response for summer to fall.
Wonderful. And I will send you today's poem, and if you could send me the name.
I grabbed it. Yes, I did grab it.
Send the name and the topic by email to me. I'll go ahead and.
They'll do so. Awesome.
All right.
Take care, guys. Bye.
Bye.